Caps hat, Caps jersey. I got this Capitals jersey in, I want to say 98, 99, somewhere in that region. The hat I got a couple years ago to match the jersey. I was a Caps fan at the time. And right now I'm hoping that the Caps finally do it. Well, let's review this, shall we? Let's go ahead and take a look. Everything's fine, everything's good. 1991. The Penguins knocked the Capitals out in 5. The Capitals won the first game 4-2, and then they lost 7-6 in overtime, 3-1, 3-1, 4-1. 1992. They met in the first round. They met in the second round that first time. First round. The Capitals won the first game 3-1. They won the second game 6-2. Go Caps. Game 3, the Penguins win 6-4. Capitals won the fourth game 7-2. Defending Stanley Cup champion Penguins are out. Game 5, Penguins 5-2. Then Penguins 6-4. Then Penguins 3-1. $1994. Aha. Capitals win game 1 5-3. They lose game 2 2-1. They win game 3 2-0. They win game 4 4-1. They're up 3 games to 1 now. They lose game 5 3-2. But then they win game 6 6-3. And here we go. That jinx, that curse is broken. 1995, they meet in the first round again. Capitals win game 1 again 5-4. The Penguins win game 2 5-3. The Capitals win game 3 6-2. They win game 4 6-2. They're up 3 games to 1. Here we go. The Penguins won game 5 in overtime 6-5. I remember that one. I believe that's the Nedved game. They won game 6 7-1, and the Capitals lost game 7 3-0. 1996. First round. The Capitals won game 1 6-4. They won game 2 5-3. They lost game 3 4-1. They lost game 4 3-2 in overtime. They lost game 5 4-1, and they lost game 6 3-2 to lose in 6 to Pittsburgh. 2000. They meet Pittsburgh. First round. They lose game 1 7-0. Wily Capitals plan here. We've won all the game 1s. Let's just not show up in game 1. We'll win the rest of the series. They lost, they won. No, they did. They lost. I'm looking at other games. They lost game 2 in overtime 2-1. So their plan failed. Then they lost game 3 4-3. They were down 3 games to nothing. So now it's time for the comeback. The Capitals win 3-2, and then they lose the 5th game 2-1 to the Penguins, who advance out of the first round. 2001. First round. Capitals beat the Penguins 1-0. Here we go. They lose game 2 2-1. They lose game 3 3-0. They win game 4 in overtime 4-3. They lost game 5 2-1, and then they lost in overtime again 4-3 to get eliminated from the playoffs by the Pittsburgh Penguins. 2009. They win game 1 3-2 over the Penguins. They win game 2 4-3 over the Penguins. Here we go. They lost game 3 3-2. They lost game 4 5-3. They lost game 5 4-3. They won game 6 though 5-4 in overtime, and then they lost game 7 6-2. I may have chuckled during the 6-2 loss because at that point I decided I wasn't going to cheer for the Capitals again. It happened right around 2001 when they lost to the Penguins for the umpteenth time. 2016, last year, conference semifinals, so the second round. They beat Pittsburgh in game 1 4-3. They lost game 2 2-1. They lost game 3 3-2. They lost game 4 3-2 in overtime. They won game 5 3-1, and then they lost game 6 in overtime 4-3. The Capitals need to stay out of overtime. That's the key. There have been so many heartaches for the Capitals against the Penguins. 8 times. I believe it's 8 times out of 9 that I just read. Penguins win. Capitals win game 1 regularly. Capitals get series leads regularly. 1-0, 2-0, 3-1. Doesn't matter. Pittsburgh rolls back and whoops them. This is why, since I made that prediction last summer that the Capitals would win the Stanley Cup, that people have been on me. And when I said likely champs, I have Pittsburgh at number 1. Sure, they're most likely. But call me an optimist. Call me an optimist. I'm going to go so far out on a limb. Capitals in 7. I'm not only saying Capitals are going to win. I'm saying they're going to win in Game 7, the bane of their existence. That they're going to win 3 games and somehow win that 4th while the Penguins have won 3. Something they've never done. In net, I give an advantage to Holtby over Fleury, but barely. On the blue line, it's a wash. Up front, Pittsburgh's better. But I just feel like you can't fail forever. And I'm saying that as a Canucks fan, trying not to sound like a Canucks fan. But you can't fail forever, right? Eventually the Rangers won a Stanley Cup. Eventually Detroit won a Stanley Cup. Eventually Chicago won a Stanley Cup. The Capitals have won 3 President's Trophies in the last decade. They have been the class of the NHL's regular season. Eventually that has to translate to playoffs. They at least have to get to a Stanley Cup final during this generation. With Ovechkin's team and Holtby in net. And the last few games I saw, Shattenkirk seemed to be really mixing really well with his teammates now. It has to turn around at some point, doesn't it? It can't stay like this forever, can it? So I'm taking the Capitals in 7. And I will be in a very small minority. Because I feel like they're due. They have to be. If this was any other organization, people would be saying the same thing. Because it's Washington, everybody's saying, nope, not going to happen. Before the Canucks broke through in 2011, the same thing was said. And then when they lost in the final, everything was forgotten. When the Bruins won in 2011, they hadn't won the Stanley Cup in about 40 years. And they had gone through some really disastrous results before that 2011 breakthrough, before that Stanley Cup, including blowing the 3-0 series lead over Philadelphia the year before, including trading away Ray Bourque so he could get a Stanley Cup because they could never get it while he was there, which was the lowest point for me as a Bruins fan ever, was watching Ray Bourque have to go to Colorado to win a Stanley Cup. Eventually, teams break through. And, you know, it's been less than 12 months since the Chicago Cubs. They won. Finally. I really, in this series, think it's going to be a lot closer than other people perceive it's going to be. I keep reading, Pittsburgh's going to kill Washington. Look at most of these results. It's not that Pittsburgh kills Washington, it's that they usually score that overtime goal to knock them out. Washington has been right there with Pittsburgh. My frustration as a Caps fan back in the late 90s, early 2000s wasn't that the Penguins were way better. It's that they weren't way better. They were just a little. And the Caps were never able to turn that table the other way. They did it once in 9 tries over the last 30 years. The Caps have been the butt of jokes for fans, including myself, over the last decade. And I've, made my share of Ovechkin jokes over the years. My kids thought his name was Ovechchoke for a while. And, I would make coughing noises as the Caps got knocked out of the playoffs again. But something this year feels like this is it. And I didn't feel like that last year. I didn't feel like that was the Caps' last shot. I feel like this is. The amount of anguish that Ovechkin felt last year when they got knocked out of the playoffs, you could feel it. You could see it. And Ovechkin doesn't get the respect that Crosby does, not because he's not a good player. He's been unfortunate in terms of the teams he's playing on have not been able to reach that level, whether it's Russia at the Olympics or the Capitals in the NHL. So he kind of gets a reputation for being a really good player and a good goal scorer, but not a winner. And all these regular season points mean nothing. You can see that. But the Caps have home ice. It's never meant anything between them and Pittsburgh before. I know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm talking about. I've watched every series between Pittsburgh and Washington and been angry. Whether it was Peter Nedved or Luc Robitaille or Lemieux or Jágr, whoever was scoring the big goal to get Pittsburgh past Washington, I was angry. Because I remember Nedved scoring it and saying, the guy's useless. It's the first time he's shown up in the playoffs, and it just has to be to knock out Washington. And my fandom of the Capitals in the 80s was for guys like, I believe Pat Regan ended up there after Calgary. Dennis Maruk, one of the greatest mustaches in the history of the game. Big Rod Langway fan. I've discussed that on my channel before. Love Rod Langway. And just, I don't know, there was just something with the Capitals that I wanted to see them do well. And they got better and better, and they just never made that breakthrough in the playoffs. This is either the year or it doesn't happen. Because I don't know how much more Ovechkin can take. If he's shaking hands with Sidney Crosby in the next couple of weeks, and it's Crosby going to the next round and Ovechkin's going home, I would not be surprised to see Ovechkin go to the KHL during the summer. 2 reasons. One, saying Capitals are never going to win, and I want to play in the Olympics, so I have to leave the NHL to do it. The Capitals win and get a championship, he probably sticks around and wants to do it again. But you can feel it. And anytime, I noticed the 2 times that Toronto beat the Capitals in the first round, they showed the Washington dressing room both times, and there's just a huge gaggle of reporters around Ovechkin. And it's like, even the media is waiting for the Capitals to blow this, and they're waiting to see how, and they're waiting to see what Ovechkin's going to say. Because they know, and I mentioned this in a previous video today, Ovechkin doesn't give the pat answers. Ovechkin will tell you how he really feels. And I'm hoping that at the end of this series, his comment is, we feel like we're finally ready, and we've finally beaten the Penguins. And then, in the next round, if my predictions came true and it was Washington and Ottawa in the next round, awesome. That would be a fantastic series. Every series, though, from here is going to be a fantastic series, but I would really enjoy watching Washington and Ottawa. Not that the Washington Rangers series wouldn't be good, too. There's a lot of history between the Capitals and the Rangers. And again, the Capitals are on the short end of the stick when it comes to their history with the Rangers. Even, recently, they blew a series lead against the Rangers. The Capitals are in this place, and I think they know that there's not a lot of time left for this group to do it. Some guys are getting older, whether it's a Justin Williams or Ovechkin himself, who again has probably got one eye on the KHL and what's going on over there. It'll be interesting to see what happens. All right. So go ahead in the comments below. Tell me how wrong I am, and I could very well be. I'm probably going to take heat for this. Because, yeah, the most likely Stanley Cup champions are the Penguins. The defending Stanley Cup champions. They were fantastic in the first round. But I'm going to take the Penguins because there has to be that breakthrough. There has to be. Right? No? Damn it. Hit like and subscribe anyways if you're browsing your way through, alright? Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon.